This video is brought to you by Artistica by Heart, your one-stop shop for digital templates. Use the code ARTIST11 to receive 10% off from your purchase. Link to the shop is on the description below.
How rare is your body? Let's find out. Less than 50% of people can wiggle their toes individually. The big toe and the little toe have individual muscles, so those are easier to move individually, but your middle toes are all controlled by one set of muscles, so those are a lot more difficult to move individually. Less than 0.01% of people have an unusual pupil shape. This can range from things like the pupil looking like it's dripping to different shapes and different ways the pupil is actually structured. About 1% of people need less sleep than the rest of us. The people that are able to do this have something called sleeper syndrome, which allows them to go through a sleep cycle faster than the average person. Less than 1% of people have unbreakable bones. This is caused by a mutation in one of the genes that causes the bones to be up to 8 times denser and nearly impossible to break. How rare is your body? Let's find out. Only 5% of people have a double hair whorl. The majority of people only have one hair whorl, and it actually usually goes in the clockwise direction, but having 2 hair whorls is pretty rare. Less than 0.5% of people have a third nipple. You can see it right here. They can come in a variety of different sizes, but they're usually a little bit smaller and a lot of times look like a mole and are hard to notice. About 4% of people are colorblind. Men are a lot more likely to be colorblind, coming in at 8% of men being colorblind and only about 0.5% of females being colorblind. Less than 1% of people have super stretchy skin. Having super stretchy skin is also known as hyperelasticity, and things like collagen and elastin are what control how stretchy the skin actually is, so people who are able to do this usually have different variations of those. How rare is your body? Let's find out. 20% of people have a gap between their 2 front teeth. What normally causes this is a discrepancy between the jaw size and the teeth. Now, a lot of celebrities also have this and don't get it corrected because they think it makes them unique. 25% of people have something called hitchhiker's thumb. Hitchhiker's thumb is where the upper part of the thumb can bend 90 degrees backwards. And there's also a gene referred to as the bendy thumb gene that causes this. Only 10% of people have something called Darwin's tubercle. This is the little bump on the outside of your ear, and it's believed that people who have this are better at sensing voice tonality. Only 1% of the population can lick their elbow. And the people that can normally do this usually either have a long tongue or a short forearm or both. How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 60% of people have freckles on their eyes. It's also called a nevus, and it can appear on the colored parts of your eyes or even the white, and it can be a small little dot or it could be a huge one as well. It's thought that extended sun exposure causes these. However, if they're flat, they don't really pose any risk. About 1% of people are born without a nail, and this is usually a genetic condition where people are missing their entire nail, but there are times when only parts are missing. Only about 5% of people have rosy cheeks, and this is also called rosacea, and it's a skin condition that causes the visible blushing or flushing of the blood vessels in your skin, and this is different from just having naturally rosy cheeks. Less than 1% of people have an eyeball scar. This is also called a macular pucker, and it's when the vitreous pulls away from the retina and it can cause blurred vision.
This is how rare your body is compared to the rest of the world. Let me know in the comments how rare you are and which ones you have. Did you know that an incredibly rare 1% of people across the world have a double eyelash row? So I imagine a lot of you are quite jealous. However, it does come with its negative effects as it can eventually affect your vision. Next up is still pretty fucking rare. Only 11% of people have naturally brown hair, which is pretty insane to think about. Even more astonishing, only 5% of the population's tongues are tied, making you pretty fucking rare if you have this. Only a mere 1% of the population have different colored eyes. This is known as heterochromia, and I have to say pretty fucking cool. Next, only 1 to 3% of humans possess the no sleep gene. This is known as the DEC2 gene, and it means that these humans can operate virtually on no sleep. Leonardo da Vinci and Ben Franklin are 2 people who possess this gene, but less than 1% of people can hear colors and see sounds. And to that I say, Part of this is because of a mysterious phenomenon known as synesthesia, where they hear music as colors or some shite. If you want a part 6, let me know, I got so many more. Elon!
How rare you are? Part 3. Number 1 is dimples. Only 25% of people have dimples. You can have either 2 or just 1 cheek dimple. Dimples are also hereditary, so if either of your parents has a dimple, it's more likely that you will have one as well. Number 2 is the way your hair whirls. 8.4% of people have a counterclockwise hair whirl on their head, while the majority has a clockwise one. Only 5% of people have arched fingerprints. And you can see 65% have looped and 30% have whirled, but that arched is the rarest. Only 22% of people can wiggle one ear, and only 18% of people can wiggle both their ears. And the ability to wiggle the ears may be inherited, however, it can also be learned with practice. Only 11% of people have naturally curly hair. How rare is your body? Let's find out. 6% of people can vibrate and rapidly shake their eyeballs back and forth. Only 33% of people can whistle. Almost everyone has the ability to whistle, it just takes learning the right techniques. 16% of people can make a roaring noise in their head using their jaw. They're able to do this because they can control a small muscle in their jaw that deafens chewing, but when that is flexed, it makes this roaring noise in your head. Less than 1% of people have perfect pitch. Perfect pitch is being able to identify the exact note when you hear it. A lot of people believe you're born like this or it's developed very early on. However, some researchers have hypothesized that this can be learned later in life as well. 9% of people can taste the soap taste in cilantro. Cilantro contains a chemical that's a byproduct of soap making, and only 9% of people have a gene that can identify this, which makes cilantro have a soapy taste.
This is how rare you are compared to the rest of the world. Only 1% of the whole population can swallow 3 times in a row. If you could do it 4 times, Superman, that you? And if you could do it 5 times, well, you can't, because it's basically impossible. I bet you didn't know that there is considered to be a rarest zodiac sign. And that sign is actually Aquarius, so if you're in that, good job. Only 10% of people around the entire world have Morton's toe. Essentially, your index toe is larger than your thumb toe. Even crazier, only 5% of the population's tongues are tied. Question, have you ever walked outside and immediately started sneezing? Well, you're kind of rare because 25% of the population sneeze from sunlight. And just 1% higher with 26% of people having a narrator in their head. It'll be like a constant voice that you can't shut off. A voice that you hear when you think. Also, less than 1% of people have unbreakable bones. I swear this is next to superhuman. Not really sure how you'd figure out if you have this, so don't. And finally, less than 1% of people can hear colors and see sounds. Please let me know if you have any of these in the comments because I need to know.
This is how rare your body is. 35% of people have something called hitchhiker's thumb. It lets you bend your thumb back super far. This is called Morton's toe, and it means your second toe is longer than your big toe. 22% of people have this, so check your foot right now. People with red hair are incredibly rare. Only 2% of people in the world have this. Chances are you've never seen someone with gray eyes. And that's because only 1% of people in the world have this. And finally, this condition is called vitiligo, and it happens when patches of your skin turn lighter. Only 0.5% of people have some form of this condition.
This is how rare your body is compared to the rest of the world, part 2. Only a rare 16% of the population don't have this muscle. It's known as the parimalis longus. It was developed and useful back when our ancestors were big tree climbers. You want to see if you have it, put your thumb and your pinky together on a flat surface and lift your hand up slightly. It'll either be there or it'll be absent. Let me know if you have it. If you were double jointed in any way, then you are a part of the 20%. This is mostly thought to be genetic and slightly horrifying if I may say so. It's also to do with variation in collagen in your connective tissues. Next, an incredibly rare 12% of the population have heterochromacy. This is the ability to see a lot more colors and shades than the majority of humans. Despite all 10 times the amount of